Well, hello again. Today I'm going to be telling you about the different types of questions that you are going to experience on the Keystone test. We have fiction and nonfiction. I'm going to go through this rather quickly, and I really don't have any answers for you, but I'm just going to show you some examples and give you some tips and tricks. Let's get started. The first type of question you're going to see is about author's purpose. And this is when you're dealing with a fictional passage. Here's an example question. What is the author's purpose in writing the passage? And we have 4 examples. Well, how do you find this out? It's not going to come out and tell you. You're going to have to read the entire passage. You're going to have to ask yourself, what is the author trying to say? Is the author telling a story, trying to persuade something, arguing an issue? What is the author doing? And then you're going to pick the answer that works best. It's best if you have the answer in mind before you pick one of the choices. Here's another one. How does the author use strategies to help get his or her purpose across? This question, they give you a quote here. The yellow flowers turned their happy faces towards the sun and smiled. How does the poet's use of personification help to communicate an idea in the poem? Well, reading over these 4 choices, any of them can work if I haven't read the poem. You have to go back to the poem, figure out what's the overall message, and then take a look at that question, take a look at that statement, and answer the question. Remember, use the whole poem. Another one is vocabulary. They give you a sentence with the word famished, and then ask you about the word famished. What I recommend you do is replace the word famished with each of those words. See which one sounds best, and then you select that word. Unless, of course, you know what famished means, and then you would just move on. Comprehend. Some of them are asking you not to analyze, but just do you understand what's happening? This question, based on the information in the passage, why does Mrs. Allen visit different places in town each day? It's unlikely they're going to answer that question directly, but you're supposed to read the passage, understand the plot, and pick the most logical answer. Again, there may be more than one possible answer, but they want the best answer. This is not necessarily mathematical. Interpretation. Sometimes you're not asked to just comprehend, but come up with what might happen or what might happen next. This question, what does Samuel most likely do at the end of the passage? There may be several correct answers here. Your job is to get rid of the obvious negative ones, find the 2 possible ones, and then, based on the entire passage, pick the one that sounds the best. It is up to you to decide. There is not going to be an answer that comes right out and says something. So don't waste your time looking for a specific clue or anything. Analyze form. In this question, how does the reader know that the passage is narrative prose rather than drama? In these ones, you have to know the difference. Remember, a narrative tells a story. Persuasive argues a certain side. Drama is designed to make you feel something, to make you feel anxious or happy or sad. It's a fictional story that takes you places. So this one is saying that the passage is narrative prose. It means the author is telling a story. So you have to go through and say, well, which one of these elements fits telling a story better than a drama, which is designed to make you feel something. Literary elements. Now, we cover these a lot in class, and these you really have to know what the element means. So how does the author's style help create the mood of the passage? We have to know what mood means. Remember, mood is how the reader feels. So you have to go through and, again, looking at the passage as a whole, ask yourself, how does the author make me, as the reader, feel a certain way? Universal elements, based on the passage, which American cultural idea is most emphasized? Again, you have to look at the entire passage. Odds are all of them will be examples of American ideals, so you have to figure out which one of these 4 ideals is represented. This is where it's good to read the question first and then go find the possible answer. Last one I want to talk about in fiction is patterns. What is the rhyme scheme of the first stanza of the poem? You're going to be asked to look for ways that things are put together. Remember, when you're doing poems, you want to look at the last syllable, the last sound of each line, and use that to come up with your patterns. So that's fiction. That's fiction questions. We're going to move on to nonfiction now, and you're going to notice they are almost exactly the same, but they are, of course, slightly different because, remember, nonfiction, we don't have quite as much narrative. They're not things being made up. So in nonfiction, we also have author's purpose. Remember, authors write for different reasons for nonfiction. Sometimes it is still to persuade, sometimes it's just to give you the facts. You have to figure out which one is best. What additional information would best support the author's purpose? So this might just be a general question. Let's move on. The suffix shun helps the reader know that the word abstraction means what? Well, you would want to find this word in context. You would want to figure out what it means from the context, and then you would want to go through and figure out what the best choice is. You could try to do this without reading the passage, but you're going to get a little confused. So again, for vocabulary, it works best to find the original context. Comprehend, just like with fiction and nonfiction, we have comprehend. Do you understand what is happening in the passage? Do you understand the basic plot? According to the passage, what was Franklin's first job on entering Philadelphia? You can probably find this written directly. It's up to you to figure out which is first. It's not always in chronological order, so be careful. Interpretations, again, this is up to you to read the entire thing, understand it, and then try to make a statement, basically an educated guess. Based on the information in the passage, what conclusion can be made about apples? Well, looking at these answers, they could all be correct if I hadn't read the passage. You have to read the whole thing and ask yourself, what is the author saying here? A couple more. Literary forms. Which characteristic most identifies the passage as nonfiction rather than fiction? Well, what elements does nonfiction have? It is accurate, right? It is true. B, it says the use of many paragraphs. Well, that doesn't mean anything. The use of active verbs in forming sentences, perhaps. The use of statistics from research studies, that's probably a little more non-fiction-y than fiction. You won't find too many research studies and statistics in the passage. However, if there are no statistics in the passage, you don't pick it. Don't just read these choices. You have to look at the passage itself. The theme. Which sentence best states the theme in the passage? There is going to be a theme. Sounded a little Italian there. There's going to be themes in nonfiction and fiction alike. And remember, a theme is not just a word. It's a lesson about life. A couple more here. Literary elements. There are many, many examples. Here's one. What is the effect of the first-person point of view in the passage? Well, this requires that A, you know what first-person point of view means, and B, you understand how that might change from a third-person point of view. Imagine how it would be different if it was a third-person point of view. You go through and you pick your best option. Structure. What is the main organizational structure of the passage? Is this a sequence? Is this cause and effect? Is this problem solution? Is it compare and contrast? You need the passage for this. Is it just telling you a story in order, or does it keep going back and forth? And if so, which one of these would be best? A few more questions here. I know I said that before. Which sentence from the passage contains an opinion? You're going to find these more likely in nonfiction than in fiction. Fiction tends to be all opinion, all made up. So you have to go through and ask yourself which one of these is a fact and which one of these is not. Last one, propaganda. What persuasive techniques does the author use as the results of a survey? Well, the author appeals to the statistics, most likely. If they're using a survey, they have numbers, and they're going to try to convince you. Now, I've gone through all of these rather quickly. This is by no means a complete list of the questions you'll experience on the Keystone. If you've only seen this video once, you're probably missing out a little bit. Why did I show you this? I want you to watch this several times. I want you to familiarize yourself with the types of questions you're going to be seeing. These are not the types of questions that you normally see in the world. They're the same ideas, the same content, but they're worded differently. If you understand the wording, if you're comfortable with the wording, if you're comfortable with the language, you're going to do much better on the test. And again, for most of you, you don't need to do a lot better on the test. You just need to do a little better on the test, and you will move from basic to proficient. A lot of students that take this test that fail, it is not as though they didn't know the content, it's that they didn't understand the test itself. And that's what these videos are trying to aim for. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. Good luck on the test, and please let me know if you have any questions. I'll recommend some people.